Welcome to Suddenly Different, where we explore stories and strategies for life when it doesn't go to plan. I'm Leigh-Anne, inviting you to join me on this journey.
Sometimes midlife gets painted as a winding down, a fading out. But my guest today, Susan Braund, proves it can be the exact opposite. Susan grew up in regional South Australia, built a career in advertising, sales and marketing, and then in the late 1990s made a profound pivot into coaching, mentoring and behavioural strategy. It wasn't just a career change, it was a life change. She now guides women through your third act roadmap, helping them re-energise their careers, reclaim their influence, and step into a bold, meaningful future. Susan describes herself as energised, curious, and purposeful, and she brings those qualities into everything she does. In our conversation, we'll explore the 4 currencies she says really matter in midlife: curiosity, energy, presence, and resilience. Together, they become the foundation of a third act that is not about reinvention, for reinvention's sake, but about alignment, influence, and living untethered to anyone else's expectations. Susan, welcome to Suddenly Different. It is fabulous that you're here with us today.
Thank you, Leigh-Anne. It's fabulous to be here.
So Susan, I always begin here. What was your suddenly different moment, the shift that set you on a path from advertising and marketing into coaching and behavioural strategy?
There was a few. I've had many suddenly different moments, but this one would stand out. I had a strong career in media and marketing across 3 states, primarily in radio. And it is glamorous, it's fast-paced, it's high-performing, it's full of smart people, but it is tiring. Over time, I found myself solving the same types of problems, and I was looking for something a little bit more, interesting, I guess. It was fantastic, it was fabulous, it was wonderful until it wasn't. I had moved from Adelaide to Perth to Melbourne, and I started finding that it wasn't getting me out of bed the way that it used to. I was getting bored with the politics. There was all sorts of things that were going on, and I guess the pivotal point came when, in one of my performance reviews, you're asked the old question that you always asked back in the 90s, which is, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And in my heart, I knew it was not here. So I had to do something else. So I played around with a few things, and then I kind of fell into coaching, and that really spoke to me, because I'd always been more interested in the way that people think and how they make their decisions, often more than the outcome. And I get fascinated by that. And so that's what coaching has done for me. It gave me permission to very much play in that space and really take a deep dive and learn a lot more about people and how they were wired. So it let me use the same strategic skills I had in the advertising and marketing, but in a way that I felt made a deeper difference.
And isn't it wonderful to feel like you're making a difference to people's lives?
It was still very gratifying to get results for my clients in media, but you weren't changing lives. The work that you did was important with a small I. There were things that had to be achieved. There were goals to be met. There were targets to reach, which we did, and we did it creatively and we did it well. But it didn't really make a lot of difference at the end of the day. Selling some more widgets is great, but it's widget work. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. And I think there are seasons, as you've mentioned, you're looking at people's third acts. But you might find that we have very many acts in our in our lives. And some of them are about that intellectual stimulation, and we make differences in different ways. I used to work in data, and I felt the responsibility of assisting my work colleagues in providing them with data so they could make the best decisions possible. I saw that as my life's work until it wasn't, just like you.
Yeah. And each of the things that you do, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today had I not done the advertising and marketing stuff. That you draw things, you collect things throughout your life that serve you in different seasons of your life. So I'm not by any means dismissing that experience, that industry. You take things away from every situation that you're in. So it's how you bring all of that together and you craft and create the best outcomes for yourself.
Yes, and adapt. Be less rigid in the rules around what you've learned, right? Because we sell our ideas all the time.
We do.
We're marketing who we are. You know, like there's the strategies that you will have used in business sometimes apply to everyday's life. I mean, sometimes on the freeways and the highways, as we drive along, we have to be a bit strategic.
And generous.
And generous, that's right. So I'm going to throw a unprepared question in here because I've been wondering as I look on my social media feed, and I see that social media seems to have the loudest voice in regards to the general behaviour of society, and it seems to be pretty negative.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any truths or misconceptions that you notice being broadcast that can influence our expectation of how the third act, how life and career changes as we age?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I fundamentally believe that there are. For women in midlife, and I always say midlife is a stage, it's not an age, it seems that we are depicted as being on a downward spiral, and it is just so not true. There are lots of opportunities if we choose to seek them out. They're not necessarily traditional. They're not necessarily doing the 9-to-5 role and then switching into a family role and then switching into something else. But there's a lot of media, and social media particularly is aimed at the perfectly curated life, the perfectly curated role, the perfectly curated family, and that is just not reality. We hear a lot about the increase in anxiety and depression and those sorts of things, and a lot of that is social media based. But to get more back to the point of midlife women, there's a few that I follow that are absolutely amazing, and they are breaking barriers and doing things as they shouldn't do. But the stereotype of the little old lady is something it's part of a bygone era. Most of my peers are still highly energetic. They're highly ambitious. They are contributing in a great number of ways in different parts of their lives. But one thing that does come through is they don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to do all of it anymore. They still want to contribute at a very, very high level. But the problem that I have found, Leigh-Anne, is that we don't have any role models. Our mothers, if they worked, quite possibly worked as in little jobs while the kids were at school, but they didn't pursue careers. Now, you know, I'm a little older, I'm in my 60s, and so there may be some people listening go, well, my mother did. But there weren't many women who were at the peak of their career, past their sort of 40s, maybe 50s. And so when we're looking to the future, it hasn't been done yet. And so we have got this amazing opportunity to curate and create exactly what we want. We've got the experience, we've got the health. I mean, we're staying younger for longer. We've got the opportunity and we've got the flexibility. I'm hearing from a lot of employers or from a lot of businesses that they can't get enough people. And if I could find them a few people that could work 2 or 3 days a week, they would just eat them up. And then I hear on the other side, and there's a lot of gloom and doom about, oh, gee, you're over 50, you're over 40, you're over whatever it happens to be. So the roles aren't there anymore. And I think to a degree that's true. I think that some of the traditional roles aren't there anymore. And I think there certainly is some ageism in the market that shake the market up.
That's a really good idea. Let's us dictate to the market rather than have it dictate to us.
Because if you've got skills that are of a high value, that's a limited resource, that's a finite resource. And so if you can package them up in a way that works for you, and be that you talk to your current employer and you say, hey, look, I love working here, I love the culture, I love what I do. These are the things where I think I add genuine value. These other parts of my current role are not necessarily things that I specifically need to do. Yes, they need to be done, but I don't think that's the best use of my time or my ability. I would prefer to focus on this, maybe spend less time. I mean, there's many different ways that you can approach this. Some organisations are going to say, yes, that's great. Some are going to say no. And then that brings you on to, okay, what next? But I hear a lot of women just hanging on for dear life. They don't want to step away from a role that they love. They don't want to step down from what it is that they're doing, but they just can't do it all. And so everything starts to unravel, and it doesn't need to.
Yes. And I suppose there are also those financial aspects and the fear of not getting another opportunity if you let go of this one.
Yeah. And it's not only financial. A lot of it is we identify so strongly with what we do. And that this is not just women, it's men too. And so what I hear more is that women are wanting to contribute. They have the ability to work. And so they still want to be able to, but they don't want to be doing the 60 hours a week anymore. They feel that on a level they've earned the right not to. And I would agree with that. You can't put a 50-year-old head on 25-year-old shoulders. They can be intellectually superior, possibly. They can be a lot more tech savvy, but you can't teach experience. And there's an argument that may say that, okay, well, there might be 20 or 30 years of that experience that is no longer valid, okay, but the lessons are. So that's where the difference comes in.
Yes. Yeah, I know that like technology, when we look at the impact of AI, well, the impact of AI is on everybody in the workplace, not just the older ones.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I have, because of my change, because I have neurological pathway interruptions, I cannot do what I used to do. So health decided for me that I couldn't continue in my career. However, knowing that I have a willingness to learn, and I can see that same willingness in you, that we have a willingness and a curiosity to be involved in what's available. It's the method of problem solving. And I do recall at one point somebody presenting that we get paid for how we make decisions and solve problems. It's not necessarily the output, it's how we're able to do those. And we've got so much experience, as long as we're not lazy in saying, well, the solution is always one I've already done, and we're open, then age should be a benefit.
And I guess on a level it could be argued that my ability to change the ink cartridge in a fax machine, and for those listening at home, that was something that was very important in an office a while ago, can be mapped directly into, okay, I'm having trouble with this particular program. How can I fix it?
Yes. And you and I, we grew up in the phase, the introduction of computers into the workplace from typewriters. We went through learning how to use a mouse.
Yes.
When nobody had ever had one before. And so we've had the opportunity in our career to have so much change. So we are so experienced with change and evolution.
But I think back to your original point, social media is new. There's nothing to compare it to. And the influence of it is immense. And it's invasive and intrusive, and it's quite profound. So yes, there is a lot of, rather than say that there is a lot of negativity about midlife, I'll say it's more difficult to find the positive. And I mean, I'm a firm believer you curate your feed to suit you. And I do, as I mentioned, follow a number of women in midlife who are amazing, but it seems to be a smaller pool to draw from than other niches, if you like. So that's one thing that everyone is learning at the same time, is the impact of social media for Alpha generation, Gen Z, Gen Y. It's always been there. And so it's not really a learning, but for older generations, it's something they're having to somehow bolt on to the life that they've had, and I think that makes it a different animal. I guess we're more easily able to put it to one side because it's new, whereas people who are digital natives, they don't. It's just part of their reality. So that it's more difficult for them to ignore.
Yeah, so it's something about being less passive in what we're receiving and ingesting from the social
Absolutely.
media, which different generations are more automated in their ingestion of the social media. And it's important for all generations to step back and choose what we're going to ingest, choose what our truth is going to be, and who our leaders are, as against be forced in what we're being led to.
It's almost, and I fundamentally believe that people of our generation, it is more of a choice. But for those that have grown up with it, it's quite insidious. It's just always been there. And it's self-iterative. So if you are not having a good day and you're doom scrolling and you're stopping on posts or reels or whatever that are of a certain nature, that then attracts more in. I mean, everybody knows how social media works. So that becomes quite automatic. For those that have never had the opportunity of stepping back from it because it's always been there. I mean, I don't know how old I was when I first had, I had Facebook for years before it was on my phone. But that was something that we actively had to, but that was an active choice that we made to be involved with it, and it was new. Someone who is, say, 20 years old has never really had that choice. Okay, it may not be Facebook, but insert Meta product or whatever here. But you cannot not function without social media as a young adult. You just can't do it. Whereas for older people, it's unlikely that they do, but it is certainly possible. I mean, people have been known to go without their phones for hours, but that just doesn't happen. So it's a very different animal for us. And I think for midlife women, it's a bit more of an advantage because they can, it's easier for them to put it away because they haven't always had it. For someone who is in their 20s or 50s, that's just, it's part of their, I've heard people say it's a human right, which, it's mind-boggling to me, but anyway. That's how it is viewed in some parts.
It's a human right. Wow, that is bizarre. Looking at the program that you've developed and the exploration that you have done through your life, you've described yourself as energized, curious, and purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
How did those qualities emerge for you, and how do you continue to shape your work and life today with those pillars underneath you?
Okay. I've always had more energy than has been reasonable at every age. And it's still there. I think that all those qualities have been there and they evolve and change. I think that if you're open to it, midlife can actually sharpen them. I mean, if you take energy, for example, I've always moved. I've always run or going to the gym, hiking, walking. I've been for a run this morning, and, you know, I'm 63 years old, and I just about a 7K run this morning. And that's not, I wasn't all running, but, you know, that's something that I will always do. It clears my head and it gives me perspective, and I do some of my best thinking when I'm actually moving. Physical activity for me has never been about performance as such. It's about staying healthy, it's about clarity, well-being, and staying sharp. It's something that it's a non-negotiable for me. I always say it's best for everybody if I go and get some exercise. Curiosity and purpose, I've always wanted to know why. And I've a why in terms of why something happens and why are we doing it. So those two have always worked in tandem for me. And I guess that I've become more deliberate in midlife around those things. So it's less about pushing forward generally and more about moving with intent, because at some stage it's just been, let's do new, let's do different, let's just mix it up a bit. That's sort of mellowed a bit in midlife. So these qualities still anchor how I work. And they're often what I find women need to rediscover in their third act. They've just let them go.
And I suppose from that energized point of view, everybody's physical situation is different. So it's like, well, how do they do that? So there's some people it might be walking. Some people may energize through reading, right? So it's sort of how do you build your energy and know that you're building that? And the curiosity, I love that, you know, constant why does this work? Why doesn't this work?
And how?
Why? Yeah, that's right.
And what if?
It's like really curious. I wanted to be an engineer as a child, and I'm still like, why is it? Why with my condition? Why some days is it okay and other days it's not? And how do you maximize it? So that sort of leads into that purposeful. So with purposeful, is that purpose as in how some techniques you go through a big activity on finding your purpose? Do you mean that kind of big picture purpose, or do you mean actually why am I doing this? Why am I having this coffee? Like is it simple that every action I take has a purpose to it, or is it leading to a big picture purposeful outcome?
I think for me it has to be a little of each, a little bit of both. I don't know that everybody has a really big purpose, and people can invest a lot of time and feel as if they've somehow missed the mark if they can't articulate what their really big purpose is. And sometimes it's just be a good human, do your best, make a difference if you can. Not everybody is hardwired to some amazing outcome. So I think if you're aligned with something that speaks to you, with something that you can relate to, if you've got do good work, whatever it happens to be, that's going to lead you down a certain path. Is that coffee you're having leading you where you want to go? Is this the best use of your time at the moment? What is this meeting about? What is this relationship about? What is this conversation about? Am I in the room? Am I in the right room? Am I surrounding myself with people that energize me? Am I looking after myself? Am I surrounding myself with am I feeding my intellect, if that's what you want to do? And that's not what everyone does want to do. You know, sometimes it's worthwhile for people just to sit back and go, why am I actually doing this? Because sometimes you can kind of unconsciously get yourself into a situation that is really not of your choosing. But you've given your power over to others because you don't make calls, you don't make choices. You just kind of mosey along and do whatever. So I think that having a weather eye on the meaning of the direction at any time is a good thing to have. I don't know that you need to sit down at the end of every day and analyse it and analyse it to death. I think it's good to reflect. But I Are you doing what you want to do? It was said to me many years ago, if you're not getting what you want, it's something you're doing. It's not happening to you. So if you look at where you are and it's not where you want to be, it's something you're doing. It's not happening to you. So what is it that you're doing? What is it you need to change? What are you willing to put up with? And are you willing to also accept the consequences of that?
Yes, yes. Very wise words. Because sometimes we do feel that it's happening to us, that we are blindly unable to make any difference. But often those little decisions, the decisions to stay quiet when really you should say something, to close that door and open a new one, sometimes it's hard. So with curiosity being one of your cornerstones, and you say curiosity, not knowledge, keeps us relevant. So it's not about how much we've got in our backpack of knowledge. It's about being curious about what's going on. How has curiosity guided your career pivots, and how can women use curiosity to open more doors in their third act?
Yeah. Everything meaningful that I've done has started with curiosity. Sometimes it's just a quiet wondering, and sometimes it has a lot more energy behind it. I've always wanted to know why, and I've driven many people in my life nuts over the years by going, but why? But just do it. But no. I need to put context around things, and it's not about being right or having a better answer. I'm just curious. It's if it's something that I haven't thought of, and it's not that I'm the font of all knowledge by any stretch, but if it's something that hasn't occurred to me, I'm fascinated by it. And so I'll often ask people, could you explain how that works? Or wow, that's interesting. How does that connect with that? So I can go down innumerable rabbit holes just because I'm curious. But what I find is, if you lift it back up to the surface, what I find is that it can help cut through the noise and reconnect with what really matters. Because if I'm going down a certain path and it's going a certain way, I go, no, I don't like that. So I'll just, that's cut off. And so that sends me down a different track. And so the ability to, I guess, filter is something that curiosity opens for you. And I find that when good experience or experience generally meets curiosity, options open. For example, I will never change the cartridge in another photocopier, so that's knowledge I don't need anymore, but I'm really curious as to how that applies somewhere else. So if you're open to merging the two, that's where relevance and influence come from as well, because just because you haven't done X, chances are there's an experience that you've had in your past that is very relevant to that in that context. Often what we do is we go, okay, that's old, that's broken, that's no longer relevant. And in some cases, it is something you may never use again, but you develop some neural pathways, you've developed the ability to learn, you've developed the ability to apply information and knowledge. And that in itself is valuable. The other thing about curiosity, it's about asking good questions. And if you're asking yourself good questions and you're asking them now, if you pay attention to what that brings up, it's often where the next chapter begins. And so just think about the quality of questions you're asking yourself and where that leads.
And I suppose whether you're shutting yourself down as equally.
Yes.
If you're dismissing yourself and where that's leading. Well, I know with the rebuilding of the neural pathways, so I'm 61 and I had a neurological episode, a mini stroke when I was 57. Now I have had to rebuild my neural pathways, and they're not all rebuilt. And sometimes I have to go I feel like sometimes I'm driving around a road in my brain and I get to a detour sign and I have to go around the houses. I just have to find the answer I want, and I have to be very, very determined to get that answer and let go. But I think it's really important as we age to be curious so that we are willing to learn more things, because we are not done. And then we will find the relevance of what we've learned. So as
Mhm.
we're continuing to create greater use of our brain, the number of people who say to me, I know I've got a neurological problem, but the number of people who say to me, I forget things all the time. And I think, don't try and normalize yourself. That's being lazy. If I could remember all of the time, I would remember all of the time. So what do I need to do to remember? Well, I need to form new neural pathways that take me to the answer. And I think that, in being curious, in questioning, we'll realize that the pathways that have closed reopen, new ones will form. How would we recommend young children to build their neural pathways for the first time? Who said that only neural pathways can be built by young people?
No, that's not true at all.
No. So there is an infinite amount of space in our brains for new ones.
And the other
So-
question that's always good to ask is what else? What else could we do? Because we often what we'll do is we'll get to an answer. And we'll go, okay, that's the answer. Yep, okay, that's what we'll do. What else? Is there another way? And that's where that work comes in.
And that's where utilizing a tool called AI
Mm,
is it is fun to explore thoughts you don't know. Because that's why we have teams of people working in organizations, is because none of us know it all. So with your energy, I know before you said that you run and you're always physically energetic. So energy is another theme that runs deeply through your work. And you write about how the depletion of energy creeps in quietly through too many yeses and too
mhm.
few boundaries. What practices help you and your clients to protect and reclaim energy so it fuels impact?
I think that you need to be clear on where your energy leaks are, because it does leak quietly. Do you mean the yeses, or is that just a default response? Be clear about what it is that you want. Because one of the things that midlife women have often done is they've put themselves last forever. And so the number of times women will say to me, oh, look, I haven't got time to go for a walk. Why not? Well, I've got this, this, and this to do. Well, who does that serve? And so they will compromise their quality of life to please others. And that's a huge shift for some women, because it's not like they make the decision to do that. It just happens over time. So what do? I protect my energy by being deliberate about a number of things, about how I move, what I eat, where I place my attention, who I surround myself with. Not everybody, and I do understand that not everybody's going to want to go for a run every day. I certainly don't. I do other things as well. And not everybody wants to be as physically active as I am, but I think that we need to move to the best of our ability to retain the use of our bodies, flexibility to prevent things like falls, maintain good overall health. It's very much a use it or lose it. People have different capacities and different abilities, absolutely get that. But there's usually some things that can be done that are very gentle, as with many things, it's about consistency. So for me, as I've said previously, daily movement is non-negotiable. It's not as a discipline, not only as a discipline, because it is a bit of a discipline, but it's also a fuel and it's also a filter. So that's something that I absolutely do. And I've also learned to be quite ruthless with what drains me and also generous with what restores me. So I do take time out. There's a lot of things that I do that are very good for me. If I'm operating at my best, well, then it's best for me, my family, my clients, my business, everything. So I don't treat energy as a reward. It's a resource, and we need to use it wisely. We need to cultivate it, and we need to deploy it to its best ability or its best advantage.
Yes. Because, I mean, I know my condition, I have difficulty keeping my energy at a certain level. And so I have to really concentrate on what I eat and what I do and don't overdo. Don't do too many yeses. I do lots of yeses.
Mm.
But it is to be more purposeful, like you said before, with what you're choosing to do, and understand the energy cost of doing and not doing.
And also, who and what energizes you?
Yes. Yeah. No. Well, it is. It's like since starting this podcast, the amazing conversations that I'm having every week energize me, and I think about the people who listen, and I think hopefully the episodes energize them too. And it is a bit of a truth-telling and little window into people's lives
Energy,
and a bit of advice.
It depends on also whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, if you're looking at Myers-Briggs, as to where you get your energy from. For some people, spending time around in a crowded room surrounded by people is absolutely their thing. That it makes them sing. For others, they need to replenish their energy by being quiet and still and alone and out in nature. It's not a one size fits all. And as you get older, you get to recognise these situations I feel good after, I'm energized by, regardless of what they are. So you need to gravitate more toward those. And there'll be other things that you go, don't know why, but every time I do X or I spend time with X, I just feel depleted. That's a very, very clear no. And it's up to us as individuals to navigate those things and to work out what our boundaries are, to set them and to monitor them. And, that can be some hard conversations or some changes in habits or a number of different things. But it's reward for effort. It's something you're doing. It's not happening to you. If you allow yourself to be put in those situations, or you continue to put yourself in those situations, you may not like the outcome, but you've actually asked for it. Up to you.
So with presence,
Mm-hmm.
so commanding attention without demanding it, feels especially important for women who may feel overlooked in their midlife. How do you define presence, and how has it created influence in your journey?
Presence is really being comfortable in your own skin. If you're not that, you are not going to have presence. It's a bit like nailing jelly to a tree. It's different things for different people. It's not about volume, it's about clarity. It's the confidence of, I guess, knowing what you bring, what you stand for, and not feeling the need to prove it every day. And you're right about midlife women often feeling a bit invisible, a bit unseen, not because they lack value, but they've just been too busy proving it to everyone else. And you bring in the whole social media thing. Midlife women, they change the way they look. They don't have the same, I guess, status as they used to. They can be considered, unless they put themselves forward as being someone who is forward thinking, they can be overlooked because their ideas may be expressed in a manner that makes them seem irrelevant. Presence is about owning who you are. And the clearer you are on your value, the clearer you are on the comfort in your own skin and your contribution, that'll change the dynamic entirely. So it comes back to just being comfortable with who you are and understanding that fundamentally you have value and you've got something to give and something to add.
Yes. And until we can truly believe that and make sure that we've got that energy, right? So if we've got energized in the way that we need to be energized for our behavioral type and our body type, then it is easier to believe in yourself and to have that presence and be noticed. And as a person with now a longer term disability, let me assure you that nobody in the general public is paying attention to anybody in the general public. So we're not just ignoring women who are in midlife, we're ignoring everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody pays as much attention to us as we do.
Yes, yes. So do not feel as though you're being overlooked and you're a minority being overlooked. You're a majority being overlooked.
Yeah. The other thing about presence too is there's a certain level of congruence as well between how you present, what you say, your energy level, and what you actually do. And when they all kind of line up, that's presence.
Yes. Yeah. And it's authentic. It's not messy authentic. It is strong authentic.
It resonates.
And you know, when we have midlife women have the most amazing strength. They have been through so much change. They have absolute resilience in the effective way of resilience. So you reframe resilience not as endurance, but as recovery and rhythm. What shifted your understanding of resilience and what rhythms support your ability to sustain both career and well-being?
You know, I used to wear exhaustion like a badge of honour at that. I was in advertising in the 80s. It's just what you did. But that was really just over-functioning in disguise. I mean, everyone was exhausted, but it was just what you did. But I have found, as time's gone on, that you build resilience, and you do that through the rhythm of your life, the rituals, the habits, the boundaries, the things that keep your mind, your body, and your spirit in sync. You can't scattergun resilience. It's something that you've got to build a foundation and you've got to keep adding to it. Otherwise, you can have a life that's a bit brittle and it's far more difficult to respond to things, and you're more likely to react, and that's usually not the best way to handle things. So I guess, again, it's how and how often you move, how you allow yourself to recover. And recovery is one thing that back in the day we didn't do recovery. We just sort of went on to the next great big challenge. What you feed your body and mind and who you surround yourself with. It's building that that framework or that container. Don't like that word, but that container and the foundation that you operate from. You build resilience so you can draw on it. It's not something that you can just pull in out of thin air. It's something that you've actually got to cultivate. So all of these things, they shape your capacity to do life the way that you want it. So, because really what we're looking for in midlife is the ability to use our wisdom and to take those things seriously, because it gives us the freedom then to redesign the life that we want and the energy and the ability to fulfill it.
That is really lovely. Yeah, just to be able to choose, to be able to choose the life that you want to have, not just get the life that is coming towards you. And by being aware of the different elements in our life that need to be attended to, right? You're only as strong as your weakest area. So if you're not looking after your health,
Huh?
it will catch up.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not looking after your finances, it will catch up. So we need to be adult in our approach and use our wisdom for ourselves. So you speak about endless possibilities and freedoms at this stage. If curiosity, energy, presence, and resilience are the compass points, how can they guide somebody who's listening today forward as they are stepping into their third act, whatever time of their life that is?
Okay. I don't see these things as soft skills. They're really strategic levers. Curiosity will keep you relevant. Energy keeps you capable. Presence builds influence, and resilience keeps you in the game. So together, they let you lead and contribute and shape what's next, importantly, on your terms. So it's not really about proving that you still can. It's about choosing what you want to do with everything that you know. And you do have that choice if you want to take.
Just love the way you explained that. And like it was just so obvious, but we don't think of it that way in being strategic about the things that we can choose. We can choose to be curious. We can choose to energize ourselves. We can choose our level of presence and we can listen to our bodies and we can gently be strong with our resilience.
Yes.
Right? We don't have to see it as a battleground.
Mm-mm.
We can see it as an opportunity for us to do our best work.
Mm-hmm.
I know with my grandchildren, I see the influence of my knowledge and my life experience. I can see that impacting their lives. I can see the positive influence that I can be for my grandchildren. And so therefore, the ripple effect will be through their lives, through their friends, through ultimately as they get older. And so the ripple effect of being the best me that I can possibly be, as consistently as I can do it, can make a difference. And it has made a difference up until now. And I think that we sometimes forget about the positive impact we've already had.
Mm. Because role modeling is very important. And if you, if you think you're speaking of your grandchildren, to have a grandparent that is as active as they can be, still challenging themselves, still learning, present and curious, that's a gift.
That's right. Because these are all things that you don't learn on social media.
Yet.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, let us hope that we still keep those as being human elements.
Mm.
So what I take from Susan's story is this. Midlife isn't about shrinking back or proving more. It's about shifting the currencies we measure ourselves by. Curiosity keeps us open. Energy sustains our impact. Presence makes us compelling. And resilience allows us to last the distance. Together, they form the foundation of a third act that isn't about endurance or reinvention. It's about alignment, confidence, and influence. So I'll leave you with this reflection. If you gave more space to curiosity, energy, presence, or resilience in your own life, what could become possible for you? That's the essence of being suddenly different. Thank you, Susan, for a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
This has been Suddenly Different. I'm Leigh-Anne Charland, and I'm so grateful you shared your time with me. If you felt a spark, a tear, or a moment of recognition, I hope you'll pass that gift along by sharing this show. Take a deep breath, trust your path, and I'll meet you back here soon.